morning, Amador County. This is Supervisor John Plasse with District 1, here to give the Board of Supervisors report for yesterday's meeting, July 14th. We started off with a comment letter drafted for the El Dorado Irrigation District's Westlands Water District Temporary Water Transfer Project. Say that 3 times in a row. This is a proposal that El Dorado Irrigation District has made and requested an application from the State Water Resources Board to divert water from their system, which includes 2 lakes in Amador County, Silver Lake and Caples Lake, and divert that water to the Westlands Irrigation District, which is down in the Fresno area. We feel compelled to comment on this. Number one, it's a transfer of what is essentially Amador's water for our recreational purposes, fishing and other economic activities in the high country to an irrigation district down in Fresno, and basically it comes down to a very profitable fattening of the balance sheet for the El Dorado Irrigation District, about $2.5 million sale of water that we're concerned will draw down the level of Silver Lake below the levels that were negotiated in settlement agreements with the El Dorado Irrigation District back in 1999. Amador County had to sue the El Dorado Irrigation District, as did a coalition of businesses and interested parties in the high country called the League to Save the Sierra Lakes. My family, when we owned Plasse Resort, was part of that coalition. And we had to sue El Dorado Irrigation District to not draw down the level of Silver Lake to significantly low levels, basically leaving the entire south end of the lake a mudflat is what it ends up being if you draw it down too fast. So settlement agreements were entered into in 1999 that EID must abide by, and we are reminding them that those settlement agreements still exist and influence not only the rate of drawdown, but the total remaining lake elevation levels at differing points throughout the course of the fall season. Basically, September 15th and October 1st, I believe, have lake level drawdown required levels to be maintained. So sent them a comment letter requesting that they abide by those settlement agreement terms and so forth, and we'll see where we have to take it from there if they choose to comply. Next up was again another comment letter on a U.S. Forest Service project up in the Foster Meadows area. It was an environmental assessment that proposed several alternatives for a forest thinning and road clearing projects up in that area. The Forest Service wants to increase the amount of forest thinning in that area and to provide for a more fire resilient area up there. But part of the alternatives that they have suggested include closure of dispersed camping opportunities in that area, closure of roads that already exist in that area, and the obliteration of both logging landing sites, and water holes for dust control and fire suppression activities up there. So we have commented that we are in support of the Proposal 1, which minimizes those impacts, but also requests that seeing as public dollars have gone into the construction of those roads, water holes, and landings, and that management of our forests is not a one-time snapshot in time, but it is an ongoing effort, and the presence of those roads, landings, and water holes needs to continue to be there so that management activities can continue into the future. Moving on from that, we had a presentation from our Common Ground Senior Services. If you might recall, Common Ground is the provider not only of transportation services for seniors in our community, primarily for medical transports and appointments that they have, but they also deliver the Meals on Wheels, and we help to fund Common Ground Senior Services in a variety of ways, and they give us a report annually. 27,000 meals last year were delivered to seniors' homes that are homebound seniors through the Meals on Wheels program. 1,400 medical transport trips were provided to seniors for those same reasons. And probably the biggest news of the day was that the Meals on Wheels have returned to an all home cooked meal preparation prepared at the kitchens there at the senior center in Jackson. They used to, for the last 3 years or so, we're in sort of a heated up, prepackaged meals scenario. Just cost constraints and other activities made that difficult to do anything other than that. But they've returned to the home-cooked prepared meals rather than prepackaged, and that's a real benefit for the seniors in our community that rely on these meals for their daily nutritions. They reminded us that they have 2 fundraisers annually, one in May, which is their senior beauty pageant, usually held out at the Rancheria, and also an annual luau in Moke Hill in October. So if you get a chance to support this worthy cause, we certainly request and encourage that you do so. The big item of the day was the Amador County Jail project. Amador County is in the process and has been for a number of years of trying to increase our bed space at our local jail. Several statewide propositions have caused what were formerly state prison incarcerated individuals, pushed them down to the county level to be managed by our local county jails. That has put significant pressure on our county jail population and overall bed space, not to mention the actual programming space, special medical facilities and mental health facilities and programming efforts to try to help rehabilitate these individuals and reduce their recidivism rate back into the incarceration. This is a grant-funded project that Amador County is pursuing. You may recall we pursued grant monies to build an entirely new jail, received that grant award, but frankly just could not afford the costs associated with the development and build-out of a complete new 165-bed jail facility. This is a new grant program that will build programming space and additional bed space at our existing jail site here in the Jackson area. It adds about 20 new beds to the facility to increase our capacity. There's been some concerns raised by some local neighbors, primarily 2 neighbors that are concerned that although their properties were either purchased or built well after the county jail was there, in fact in most cases 20 to 23 years after it was there, they have concerns with the expansion of our jail facility and it have made claims of purported impacts to their properties as a result of that. We've received comment letters primarily from them, a few other individuals throughout the county that have objected to the county's use of a mitigated negative declaration document for our environmental document. Some of these folks want us to do a full environmental impact report, literally for the construction of one building, which tells you a little bit about where environmental litigation has gone in recent days. It's to the point to where you can't build a single building without somebody declaring that you need to do an environmental impact report to do so. Of note of those comment letters is that the Foothill Conservancy's lawyer, Mr. Tom Infusino, submitted a letter to the supervisors making the obligatory threats of lawsuit if we don't delay the project for 28 days of negotiations with these individuals. If we were to do that, we would miss the grant opportunity that is available to us and frankly would not be able to build this much needed facility. Jail is needed to see to it that our sheriff is not put in a position of having to release criminals back into society before they should be released back into society and keep bad people locked up. If we are delayed in getting this grant opportunity as a result of environmental litigation, we'll have that scenario playing out here in Jackson where the sheriff just is put in an untenable position of having to release individuals that really should not be released back into the population. We are meeting with those individuals today, myself and Supervisor Oneto as the chairman and vice chairman of the Board of Supervisors, try to work out a reasonable set of accommodations to allay these folks' fears, many of which are not based in fact or reality, but just a sort of emotional fears. And we'll try to work those out and see if we can move this project forward, but if not, once again, the effects of environmental litigation will be felt here in Amador. We also had an update report from our GSA director on the jail project, and just generally a recap of the budget. We are remaining on budget and will not have any expenses out of our general fund to complete the construction project. At least at this point in the budgeting process, it looks like we'll be able to pull that off. That's a huge accomplishment if we can get 100% of this grant money to pay for this much needed project here in Amador. So we're looking good as far as a timeline goes on that. A few other issues regarding public hearings. We had a boundary line adjustment for Deaver Vineyards out in the Shenandoah Valley, incorporating most of the flower farm into some of their other operations out there. And also had an application from an individual down in the Buena Vista area to do a Williamson Act contract, put their land into Williamson Act for grazing purposes and the conservation easement that goes along with that. The board also adopted its updated housing element. 2014 to 2019 housing element update was completed, and a few other items from the consent agenda that were brought forward regarding sort of the reconstitution of Ranch House Estates Board of Directors, a community services district up there that primarily handles local roads, and a raised concern about the contractual arrangement between our local ambulance services, American Legion Ambulance, and our EMS provider, Emergency Medical Services. We're a joint powers authority with 4 other counties. So those and other things were heard, and it was a meeting that lasted till 5 o'clock. So thank you for listening, Amador County. This is John Plasse, Supervisor, District 1, signing off. Thank you.